have people reading those, so we'll get to those at the end. All right. So hi, everyone. I'll be your host for the next couple of hours. My name is Charlie Colden. I'm the owner and lead coordinator of Cody's Events here in STL. And I want to personally welcome and thank all of you for joining us to talk about race relations within the wedding industry. If you have friends trying to join the conversation via Zoom and they cannot, we are also on Facebook Live on the Cody's Events business page. Before we proceed with this conversation, there's a few things I want to say. I recognize that this conversation is going to be uncomfortable. I recognize that this conversation is going to be heavy. I'd like for you all to internalize where you are right now and acknowledge it. Where have you not fully shown up for your Black colleagues or your clients, or where have you not been truly anti-racist? Acknowledge what you did wrong and learn from it. Don't forget about it, learn from it. A lot of people might be tired of hearing about it, but just imagine how exhausting it is to live with it. This isn't going to be an easy process, and we're not going to see changes overnight. And I don't know about y'all, but I would really like some real changes for the generations of wedding professionals after us. Now is the time to set that example. Don't rush this process. This isn't going to be a quick win, but it'll be a win nonetheless. The rules for this conversation are very simple. During this conversation, everyone on this panel is going to open up their hearts. They're going to be extremely vulnerable, and I'm going to need everyone on this panel and watching to respect that. None of us are experts. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different insight on how we've been treated in this industry and how we can all do better. I do want to reiterate that we don't have the answers. If you came here for a to-do list, you're in the wrong place. We're here to grow together. We're all adults. By now you should know not everyone has to agree with you. So my ask is for everyone to try to see it from the other person's perspective before commenting your thoughts. Again, if you have any questions or you're trying to log in to Zoom and cannot, we are also on Facebook Live, and you can comment your questions in the Q&A. And if you're joining us from Facebook, you can just comment your questions on there. We have two moderators checking comments on Zoom and Facebook, so they'll be on top of that. So no worries on that part. And now we're going to introduce our panelists. Okay, first Tanisha.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Watkins. I am a wedding photographer, and I've been in the industry for about 5 years.
Perfect. Nikita.
Hi, I'm Rakita Henderson with Pinkston Photo, lead photographer and owner. Been in the business for 12 years, officially, 20 unofficially.
Hey, Nick.
Yes, hi, I'm Nick Hughes with Fat Mix Productions. Been entertaining for over 20 years, been in the wedding professional business for about 12 years now.
Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Barber. I'm with Megalux Photo Booth. We've been photo boothing for about 4 years now.
Joyce.
Hi, my name is Joyce Falcon with Be My Guest Events. I am the creative director and principal planner, and we have been in the industry, the hospitality and wedding industry for 7 years.
Awesome. Janita.
Hi, my name is Janetta Hawkins, President and CEO and Master Designer of Personal Touches by Janetta. We've been in business for 32 years.
Brian.
I'm Brian Young from Brian Young's Catering Kitchen. I've been catering for over 40 years, doing weddings, you name it, we've done it.
Charles.
Hi, my name is Charles Glenn. I own Glencoe Entertainment, and my group is called the Charles Glenn Band, or the Charles Glenn Group. I've been in the business over 45 years.
Aaron.
My name is Erin Mukes. I own Divine Events. I've been in wedding and event planning for almost 14 years, so 13 years, almost 14.
Andrea.
Hi, my name is Andrea. I am a director of sales and events for Patty Long Catering. I have been in the events industry for over 7 years, and Patty Lung Catering has been in business for 34 years.
Melina.
Hi, my name's Melina Smith. I'm a singer-songwriter, and my business is Melina Smith Music, and I've been doing private events and weddings for the last 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. And finally, Melody.
I am Melody Lowry. I'm with A Company Event Planning and Collaborative Design, and we manage a venue, A Casa, just south of Tower Grove Park. I've been in the St. Louis event industry for almost 10 years now.
All right, so we're gonna jump right into conversation. We all spoke earlier, and we had no problem discussing everything that we felt like was important in the wedding industry, starting with price points and finishing off with our high standards and how excellent we are as wedding professionals. So I'll let someone take it away from there.
I think I'll start because what's so amazing about this panel is that we have people who are new to the industry. We have people who have been in this industry for decades. And with that, there's so much experience, there's so much diversity in our experience and our knowledge of the industry, but also our knowledge of our paths in the Black community. So with that, this first question goes to the older and seasoned professionals on this panel. How has the industry changed over the course of time, and how has it not? Charles,
I'll start. When I first started out in this business, I was working with other groups, and I could go in. It was a white group, and I could go into any venue in St. Louis, although I wasn't treated real at first. I could go into any country club, any hotel that I wanted to. When I started my group, those were sort of limited. The venues were sort of limited for me. There's certain country clubs would not accept me. There's certain country clubs that would not accept my band. And then when things started turning where clients wanted to hear more Black music, they hired my group, and they hired a couple of other Black groups around St. Louis. But on the other hand, on that, they just wanted you to play Black music. And my group is very diverse. And so what they look at is what they expect to see and hear. People listen with their eyes. And when they see an all Black group, they have a preconceived notion of what you're going to sound like, what you're gonna do, what your repertoire is. And we bring in professional speakers. We have a professional sound man. And they see the speakers and they say, well, you're not going to be too loud, are you? Well, when I was in the white groups, they would never bring that up. They would never bring that up. Number two, and when I would play with the white groups, and it was a large band, if somebody in that group did not show up, nobody said anything. It was like, oh, well, it is. When my group is on stage, if they hire 7 pieces, I always have 8. Because we have car problems, we have weather problems, but we always hire 8. But when we start, there is always somebody from the family counting heads. And then they will go back to who hired us and say, well, they have 7 or they have 8 or whatever. I didn't experience counting heads working with with a white group, but they count heads with my group almost all the time. I guess they want to see what they're paying for. There were also incidences at certain country clubs where they say, you cannot, and they would send out a letter, you cannot walk through the front door, even with a tuxedo on. I can understand loading and unloading equipment through the back. Okay, I'll get that. But they wanted us to walk through the kitchen. Pardon me? Oh, okay. They wanted us to walk through the kitchen. And I made it very clear that my band does not walk through anybody's kitchen except for our mama's kitchen. And that's because she's cooking. And the reason is if you're in a formal or a tuxedo and you walk through somebody's kitchen, you'll slip, you fall. Who's responsible? So that is just recently in the past few years have changed for me in certain country clubs.
I can chime in.
Janetta, you guys have been in so many of the venues and just as long as Charles. Do you see the same thing from a catering or an event rental perspective?
Melody, first of all, that's a great question, and it's a loaded question. There's the short answer is nothing has really changed. That's the short answer. The long answer, which I won't take up all of your time, is 32 years ago, this industry that I'm in, as we know it today, did not even exist. And so on the corporate side, we've been very, very successful, and we've had a great response from our Black and our white clients on the corporate side. But on the social side, it's different. My business, we may do 1% in weddings, and 32 years ago, it was hard to get into those industries and to work with those event planners, work with the wedding planners. They shut us out. They shut personal touches out. So we actually had to create a lane for ourselves, and which was the corporate side, and we just started doing business with those that want to do business with us. Unfortunately, I still know some of those planners today. I still know some of the wedding planners and some of the companies that shut us out 32 years ago. And the real bad part about it is they know who we are, what we do, and the quality of work that we produce. And they still today will not do business with us. And that's unfortunate.
That's definitely their loss. I remember Brian and Charles told an amazing story in our conversation because they both grew up together and they both ended up in the wedding industry in two different spectrums, but in the wedding industry and had very similar stories to tell. So Brian or Charles, you want to?
Well, it's not the point that we grew up together. We were young adults together. We lived in the same apartment high rise together. And first we started off in this business headstrong, knowing we were going to take over the world, you know. And we're still here, that's a plus. We're still here, and we still take pride in what we do. I've worked on some of Brian's projects, and I tell everybody in town he is the best at what he does. If you don't believe me, just taste some of his work.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. But we've had to go through some hoops. We had to go through some hoops and ladders, and just, you know, there are people that won't hire me, even if the client asks for me. They'll go through the agency, and the agency will say, well, yeah. But if they go through like the venue itself, sometimes they will not recommend me. And sometimes those venues, and this is something everybody needs to know. Sometimes the venues will hire a group from out of town and pay them 3 times more money, and they're half as good as what we produce. And that's been the St. Louis thing forever. Ever. And, you know, and we just have to fight through that. And it's an uphill battle, but I won't stop.
So, I mean, I think that highlights something that we all know. St. Louis is a very segregated city. You know, there's no denying that. There are so many problems that are so rooted in our society and instilled in us from the time that we were 3. I was reading something yesterday that said at 3 years old is when a child might start recognizing the color of their skin and that it looks different from someone else's. And that hit home for me because I have a 3-year-old at home and she doesn't look like me. Yeah. I'm biracial, my husband's Irish, and my daughter has porcelain skin. But the other day she said to me, we were laying down, it was an exhausting day, and she said to me, "Mommy, you're my hero." And I was like, what? I immediately started crying. And the fact that she can look at me, a Black woman, and she sees herself in me, even though we look different. I mean, that right there is amazing. And I know that each person on this panel has someone that looks up to them in that way. But, you know, sometimes as a young professional or a young adult, you don't have people who are, who you can look up to that look like you. That's something that's lacking so much in the St. Louis industry. Aaron, you've been in this industry for a long time. I mean, do you see an instance where you felt the direct effects of systematic racism in our community that filters into the wedding industry?
Well, what we do, one of the things that we wanted to touch on is how publications see us or not. And one of the things that it took me a long time to get into certain magazines here in St. Louis. I was told that my quality of work wasn't good enough, and I didn't understand what that meant. I'm like, what do you mean? I work just as hard as everyone else. Our photographers are great, but it just wasn't good enough yet. We also, I also look at the awards that we have in St. Louis and how we never get a nomination, ever get a nomination. And if we do get a nomination, we don't win. I don't know. I may have missed one that we won an award at, but no, we don't win. And that's hard to swallow after 13 years.
The problem with that for me is that it's really a popularity contest. Like the big problem in the St. Louis industry for me is that St. Louis is so segregated as a city that most white vendors don't know or don't care to know people of color in general, let alone in the industry. So if we build businesses by word of mouth and referring and sharing and talking and networking and getting to know each other, and like white vendors actively just don't engage in those relationships. You don't even know if we have similar ideas, if our styles will work, if like you don't even know because you won't give us the time of day. Like it took me years of like bashing on doors to get people to open the door. I'm just relentless and like a pit bull, but you shouldn't have to be a pit bull to get somebody to pay attention to you. Like, and then when I get in, it's, oh, she's aggressive. And well, I had to be aggressive to get in the goddamn door. Like, you can't win for losing. It's like, so what do you do? Like, how do you convince people that their lives would be enriched by not just diversifying their business life, Diversify your actual life. Like, get to know more people. St. Louis is literally a city teeming with fantastic people of color at every opportunity, and you don't know none of them. Like, really? You don't know nobody worth knowing who don't look exactly like you, don't live in your 6 blocks, don't eat the food you eat, don't breathe the air you breathe? Really? It's just sad.
I'd like to add, the thing is that Black people that live in St. Louis, they know what St. Louis is like. But there's many white people in St. Louis that don't know at all. However, if you're not white, you do know, and it's either you just kind of get by. And for example, I was at a bridal show once, and another attendee who's not Black and not white and not white either, he actually came over and he saw my brochures, and my brochure had a Black wedding couple on it, and he looked at it and he looked at me and he said, "Wow, you've got balls." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, he was like, you got a Black couple on the front." And I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, let me share some with you. And I'm like, "Okay." He was like, "We're in St. Louis, man." He was like, "They want cheeseburgers. Give them cheeseburgers. I know it sucks, but you know how St. Louis is, and you're just gonna lose. You're gonna lose money with if you don't give them cheeseburgers."
I have a secret for him. Black people are cheeseburgers too. Oh.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Now, did you say he was a competition or he was in the same profession as you?
No, he wasn't in the same profession. He was event rentals, and he does some big events, mostly like Indian events, and you know, he just says, "Hey," he was like, "I'm Indian, but you
I
know."
know who that is.
Oh, we know who that is then.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he's like, "But on my cover, you know, this is what I have on the cover of my material." So
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Well, I think the industry has changed a lot over the last 40 years, mainly because I do, my former business, we did 50% corporate and 50% social. And we had a lot of corporate because we were certified Black caterer. They were looking for Black caterers. That's good. You get your foot in the door and you get exposure to other people, and then you pick up more business. But they shouldn't use you because you're Black. They should use you because you're good.
absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
once you get in the door, you have to stay there. And I stayed there for quite a while. Now I do mostly social catering. I'm starting to get back into weddings. It's just hard, but I don't have an attitude about what anybody else thinks. I present myself like when I give bids, I give 3 bids. I don't give 1 bid. I don't give 2 bids. I get 3 bids in different price points and different styles to show that we have variety to the public. And I don't care what color they are, that's what they get. And it gives them a chance to choose. And a lot of things we don't get because they say we're too expensive, but we pay the same thing for food everybody else does.
Yep.
And I don't lower my prices because they want a lower price. Simple as that.
I think everybody who has spoken up so far has something in common in our responses, and that's about value. And the value of our work, the value of our brands, the value of our staff. And there are so many misconceptions and stereotypes of Black wedding vendors, like Charles mentioned, and even Black clientele. And for some people listening who haven't experienced this or don't understand that, can anybody elaborate on what some of those perceptions may be? Andrea, maybe from a catering perspective, what may be a conception or misconception of clientele? Joyce, I think this would be a great one for you to elaborate on too, as you're, tapping into that luxury wedding industry.
Yeah, I'll say, I think that Black clientele is often looked at as they don't want high-end and don't want to pay for high-end things, cheap. They're like, some people like to use the word urban, or they don't want to be associated with having urban music played or things like that. So those are some of the things on why people don't want Black clientele, because they don't think they'll pay for it, or they want things for free. So those are things you hear most often.
Mm-hmm. I would even harder to say that just because I'm Black does not mean that I don't hold myself to the same, if not an exceeding standard of operating business. I operate in excellence, not because I have to, but because I want to. And I think that's key. I mean, I think when you talk about, oh, I want to support Black business, support people because they're good. It doesn't have to be, I do understand that the trend or the effort and the impact is to specifically hone in on those things, but a good vendor is a good vendor. And I think that is so key. And so when you have those roadblocks of stereotypes, it is hard to press past them, because I don't know if anyone's a Scandal fan, but they kind of coined the term or the phrase that I have grown up listening to for years, and it's, you've got to be twice as good.
Mm-hmm.
And
gotta work twice as hard to be half as good. Mm-hmm.
Twice as hard to be half as good. And it's exhausting, but we have to be resilient. And I think to comment on what some of the attendees have said, like, oh, wow, I didn't know, how are you able to persist? And it's like, because I have to. And so when you see a vendor and you see, oh, they, are a Black vendor, I want you to also see my excellence. I want you to also see the quality of work. I want you to see that, Black girls and brown girls shooting film too.
Yes,
can engage in a luxury market. I'm not there yet in the luxury market yet, but you can engage with women or families of color, Black people of color, people. You can engage at that level. They are out there. And I think that's just kind of where my take is. I don't know, Rakita, do you want to add to that?
I think this kind of speaks to the authentic allyship question. And more than like necessarily caping for Black business, what authentic allyship is being aware of your spaces. Like recently, in the midst of COVID-19, a bunch of vendors did this whole thing where they held up signs so they can make this post about how everybody was going to get together and be available when it was time to start doing venues again. And it was like 20 white people. And like several different groups did this. And my thought process, nobody looked at that picture and thought to themselves, none of my Black friends got the memo. None of my people of color got the memo about this. It's just, we don't even, just be aware and hold the door open and point out, hey, these people should be involved. If we get in and we can't swing it, if we can't hack it, that's on us. but at least open the door and give us the opportunity to earn the business or lose the business on our own. Like,
I agree. I think if I can add really quickly, it's one thing to be welcoming, but for planners out there, when you want to tap into a destination industry, and Harold, he's an international makeup artist, kind of positioned it and framed it in this way. He said, you know, if you want to start hosting events in Lake Como, what do? You research traditions, the culture, you invest in finding out that space, and you know, what time is the sunset for those photographers, what time, who are the best vendors, who has the best food, the best restaurants, all of those things. And that happens when you introduce that into your life, and so it'll follow suit. That's just the best example, or the parallel that I've heard and seen.
absolutely.
The other stereotype that I see as far as vendors go is that we're late, we're cheaper, or we're overpriced. And that's not necessarily true. Not all Black vendors are late. Not all Black vendors are cheaper. And not all Black vendors are overpriced. Quality cost. Quality has no color. So if you want quality, then that's what you have to pay for. It has nothing to do with us being African American or, you know, or non or white. So that's another stigma. And then I have to agree with Andrea. The other stereotype for Black clienteles is they're always looking for a deal. They never have the money, you know, to get what they want. Well, I have Black and white clients that sometimes want more than what their budget will allow. Mm-hmm. And I have Black and white clients that will walk into our warehouse, point out whatever they want, pay for it, and we'll keep it moving as well. So both of them are, you know, not necessarily true. There are some out there, but you know, I don't think it's a black and white issue.
No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Melody, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it's about everybody's resume too. I think going off of what you said, Joyce, it's like we're a lot of times held to a different standard. It's like someone's always looking at us for, what are we going to screw up? What am I not going to do right? And in the end, when I finish an event and I'm like, it couldn't have been more perfect. You know, that's a win. That's a win. But it's also, I know in the back of my mind that I'm also proving to someone who may have doubted me just because they didn't think I had it in me. You know, Melina is humble in her bio, but this girl sings for the symphony.
Thank you, Melody. But I think that's important what you just brought up about our resumes, because we feel like sometimes we have to toot our own horn as a way to prove that, like, look, I belong to be here, or I belong here. And it's not something that, like, I can only speak for myself, but I don't like to be like, look, I have a degree in this, I have a degree in music, I've sang here, I've sang with this person, I've done this and that, because that's just not what I like to do. But sometimes you feel the need to, and I don't think we talk enough about how detrimental that is to the mental of Black people, when you feel like you have to say, like, please hear me, please believe that I belong. That does something to your mental. And I don't even think, I think it's something that I'm just realizing in the last, like, year of my life, like, just I'm realizing what, like, type of mental issues that's created for me, and for all of us. I think because at some point, I think we've all had to be like, I belong here, and we're like emotionally hoarse, like screaming, I belong here, I belong here. You know, not figuratively. And so yeah, so I think as if you want to be an authentic ally, I think you have to also understand sometimes just where people are coming from, and try not to prejudge, and be sure to, you know, obviously give people opportunity based on their merit, and don't question their merit. And I loved what Janetta said about, like, don't question, like, you know, our prices, don't question our value, don't question, you know, just, you know, our, you know, assume we're going to be late, assume, you know, these different things. You know, I have panic attacks if I think I'm going to be like 2 minutes late, 1 minute late, and I try to be early to all events that we're doing for business. But I have panic attacks literally, like, if I think I'm going to be late, because I think, like, oh my God, like, they're going to think I'm late because I'm Black. And it's just like, that's not good for your mental state as you go through life. But we do it. We go through life and we deal with this every day, day in and day out, no matter what we do. So I think if you want to be an ally, you have to understand that those types of things are going through our minds.
Can I also add to that? You touched on a great point, because I'm always operating from a defensive point of view, and I have to be 100% ready for anything, because I'm not sure what this person or this client is thinking. For example, you know, it may only take us, you know, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to set up, but I'm coming 2 hours early, 2.5 hours early, just in case. I have my staff, you know, we're unloading in uniform instead of regular clothes, just because I don't want people to think we're stealing anything. You know, they have a second uniform that they have to, you know, with a logo that they have to put on, you know, after they sweat out the first one. So we're in uniform the entire time, just so nobody thinks that we're doing anything suspicious. I mean, and the thing is, Black people aren't a monolith. And of course, just like there's wonderful white vendors, and then there's not so great white vendors. Of course, there are going to be great Black vendors and then not so great Black vendors. But the thing is, Black people, we're always under the assumption that you might think that we're one of those Black people that aren't great. And so we have to be given 200%, 500%, 1,000%, you know, after the event is over and I'm all packed up, I'm sweeping up the area. I'm trying to make sure they don't think that, oh, this Black guy came in here and left a mess. Even if it wasn't us that left the mess. It's, you know, even if somebody made a mess and it's near us, I'm sweeping up their stuff so they don't think that we left it. And it's always a defense mentality that I'm operating in, just to make sure that we don't seem threatening, so that we don't get pulled over for anything or sit on the side of the road while guests are pulling up. Anything like that is a business killer. And so we have to be on top of the game every single time. So.
True story. True story. I just want to share this real quick story. Thank you, Michael. I remember this. We travel nationally and internationally doing events. And we were in Minneapolis, and I had 2 employees that were Black males. And when we travel nationally with the Kappa convention, we usually are in spaces all over town because it's like 10,000 people there. So we're in the convention center, we're in the host hotels, we're in multiple hotels. And in order to save our clients money, sometimes when we do staging, we take a product from one stage and take it to another stage. True story. I had my employees on a cart, they had plants, and they were moving plants from the convention center to one of the hotels, got stopped by the police, thinking that they were stealing plants. Now, how they got out of it, I wasn't there, but I thought, how weird is that? And then we were at the convention center one time, and I got a call from the event planner saying that that our staff had stolen liquor or eaten food or something. Well, I was able to defend them because I said, you are truly misunderstood, not misunderstood, you're truly
Misinformed.
mistaken. You're truly mistaken because I have trained, like Michael, my team to be so tight. I run such a tight ship, and that is a no-no across the board. We do not drink the liquor. We do not eat the food unless invited. If we're invited, we will party. But that's a no-no. So I was able to defend my team, and they later found out, I'm sorry, Charles, but it was a band. It was not our team. But just, the assumptions, the assuming that you're stealing, the assuming, like, what? No. Yeah. So thank you, Michael, for that. But I want to share that story.
Erin,
Yeah.
you have something to add?
Yeah, I would add one thing, and this just goes along with what everyone is saying. It really hurts and when someone says, oh, you actually did a good job. I was like, so you
expected me to fail?
Think I was gonna do a good job? So you paid me expecting me not to do well. And so that's hard to work under that. But that's something that we have to deal with all the time, automatically expecting us not to do well. And so we, like everyone else said, we have to do 200 to 2,000% more than what we would have to, than what other people would have to do. It's a lot.
And I just want to add really quickly about authentic allyship before we move on to the next topic or have more. It's also about checking those microaggressions when you hear them during setup, load in, load out. I've heard things where it's just like, I won't even repeat it, but it's just, you can be an ally by checking somebody. It's not funny. Those off-color remarks are not necessary. So I think that's the most actionable step you can take. If you see someone snickering about, XYZ, just nip it in the bud. That's the biggest thing you can do starting now. A lot of people come for actionable takeaways. That's big. Check those microaggressions, check those, those discussions that are being had about Black vendors. I've had somebody say, well, why did they feature all Black vendors on this discussion? And the answer is because so many people came to us and asked, hey, will you proofread my site? Will you look at my portfolio? And it's okay. But also, here's a forum, here's a platform for us to share with you instead of having to take a of it. And so that's how you can support an ally. And, when a vendor shakes my bride's hand instead of my hand thinking they're the planner, guess again, it's me. It's checking people on that, taking them to the side. But I wholeheartedly agree with all the comments made of feeling like you're operating in a deficit and having to work twice as hard, and the surprise, or, oh, you know who that gown designer is? Or, oh, you're so articulate.
Oh, not the articulate.
Yes, the articulate.
Oh God, it just gives me a headache.
It's nauseating. And it's especially, I feel like in St. Louis, I've done events elsewhere, but it's just nothing like St. Louis, where it's just so persistent.
Or when you're on the phone and then you meet them in person, and
they're shocked.
Like, oh, you think I look like this, huh? But it's me. I'm the boss. You're right. Nick, did you have something to add to that?
I did.
Oh, go ahead, Joss.
I'll keep it brief because a lot of people want to talk. From every person on this panel, I hear in their voice and I hear in their spirit pain. We're hurting. We're hurting, a lot of people that don't look like us don't feel that we're being mistreated. But we carry this every day, all day, 24/7, 365 for life. And with with this panel, and I'm not going to use the word articulate. I just did. I'm sorry. But we carry ourselves quite well. You all do. But I feel in the back of our voices the pain that we have to carry every day for doing the things that we love to do, doing the craft that we are supposed to be doing since life, since the beginning of our time. But I feel the pain, and I feel it with you all. Trust me, we're all in this together.
And all those, I've been getting a lot of messages, and thank you all for the messages asking me how I'm doing and, all of that good stuff. But asking me how I'm doing now, just, I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. I've been Black my whole life. I've had to deal with this my entire life. This is not new. This situation might have brought light to what's going on, but this is not new. This is what I deal with every single day. So asking me how I'm doing today, how have I been doing? Having this situation in the limelight, it sucks to a certain extent, because I'm like, now all of my emotions are just out in the open. And for those who know me, know I don't like to air out anything. I prefer to just stay to myself, get my work done, and be done with it. So to have all of these emotions out in the open, it's a lot. To go
sorry. I just want to go back before we get too far the other direction about allyship, because I think there is some misconceptions or people not quite understanding that there are two key differences in allyship. So there's an authentic allyship, which is what we've been discussing, but there is also a separate segment of allyship that's performative. It's for attention. It's to mark it off your checklist and say, all right, I posted a black square. I hashtagged Black Lives Matter. People have been hashtagging Black Lives Matter for 6 years, and it's still an issue. It's not a box to check off your list. It is a continuous thing you need to be doing to be an ally. It's not a 1 day, 1 second, I made my post, so now everyone knows that my brand stands with people of color.
Amen.
That is not it. That is not where it ends. That's barely even where it begins. And it is not our responsibility. It is not our burden to give you a list of vendors. It's not our burden to give you a list of books to read. It's not our burden to tell you where to go to get education, where to go to get information. It's our pleasure to do it. Especially in this industry, we would love to help you and educate you and bring this all together. But it's not our responsibility. You should be taking the initiative to educate yourself 24/7. You should be doing your research. You should be making sure you are inclusive. This goes in my industry, particularly in my segment of the industry, I should say, as photographers. I'm seeing people doing casting calls or model calls for Black photographers. Yuck. Don't do that. If you are inclusive, you are inclusive. If you're not inclusive, we can work towards that. You can book African American, you can book Hispanic, you can book Indian weddings, but do it because you're talented. Do it. You use your talent the same way we are. We're getting these weddings because we're talented. Use your talent to book those weddings. Don't do it because you checked a box off your list and you said, okay, I photographed a Black person. Now I'm good to go. That's not how it works. And that's not how it should work. If it does work that way, that's my bad. But I don't think it works that way. And I don't think it should.
It does.
So being an ally, there's so many segments of allyship that need to be addressed, that you need to truly understand. You need to really reflect, and it really comes down to internally. Are you doing this to look good on Instagram? Are you doing this to look good on Facebook? Are you wanting a pat on the back? We're not giving out pats on the back because we deal with this every single day.
No cookies. No cookies.
There are no cookies in this kitchen for us to be giving out. There's no, you don't get a gummy bear for getting the right answer.
Damn straight.
There is none of that happening. You need to internally, emphasis on internally, not for looks, not for likes, not for appearance. Don't worry about how your brand looks. You need to be addressing these issues and standing with these issues, and
in your everyday life.
In your everyday life. You need to be doing it on your personal page. You need to be doing it on, you know, with your family, with your friends. You need to be doing this around the clock. It's not a box to check. And that is the key basis of allyship. And I think it does get confused a lot. It's not just posting a black square on Instagram. It is continuous. Even me as a woman of color, I have to continually make sure I'm educating myself on all aspects, because I shoot more than just people of color and more than just white people. I need to be understanding Hispanics. I'm not Hispanic. I don't know what their cultures are, or Indians. I don't know, you know, in Indian weddings, there's different things that happen. Even when it comes down to Catholic weddings, when you have a Catholic wedding, you do the research, you learn about all of the policies and procedures and where you can stand and what's appropriate. That is, it's on you. It's always going to be on you to do that. It's not on us. It's not on your black friends. And back to what Charlie was saying, you know, don't ask us how we're doing, how we can do better, how you can do better. It's not our job to tell you how to do better. And that's what she said in the intro. We're not here to give you answers, because you have the tools. You have the same internet that we have. You have the same
man's Google.
We are here to discuss this and to bring awareness to it. But it's not our responsibility, and that's where allyship lies.
Yeah,
that was a rant. I apologize. I got a little
I ain't mad at it, girl. I ain't mad at it.
Go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead. You saved me about 10 minutes. I love you.
So I will pass it to someone else.
That a lot of black people are probably not going to tell you the times that they're marginalized. They may tell, you know, other people that's close to them, but they may not tell you. But if they do tell you, believe them. Believe them. Because a lot of times it takes a lot to tell someone who may say, "Are you sure?" I don't think so. I don't think it was because you're black or anything like that. So a lot of times, you know, most black people won't say anything about it. And if they do, believe them, and support them.
Well, you know, in catering, it's a really hard business. And starting 40 years ago, I didn't start my own business. I started a catering business within a restaurant. And I got training nationally. I didn't get it locally. So I think on a different level than the local caterers do. And a lot of them just hold back so much, and they do anything to get business. They do anything to be a part of something. And it should be the way things are done. And that's how I learned catering, to do things the correct way. And there's always a different way to do things the correct way, but to do things the correct way. Like after 9/11, nationally, it was suggested that people wear branded clothing for their events. That was just something that was common, because security things went up everywhere, in venues, in hotels, in private settings. That was a suggestion to make. Even the vans, catering vans, should be labeled on the top on the roof, so somebody could see who, from up in the air, could see where you were and who you were going into a venue. And it really is important in like cities like New York, where everything's so compact and everything's so tight. But it's good practice to do that. So everybody looks like they're part of your group, especially if you're doing a big event where you have 5 different vendors there all at the same time. You know who's on first, and maybe even know who to ask the question from by knowing who they're with. So it's just something that should be done. And a lot of times people don't say things because I'm used to negative things and I don't have time for them. Let somebody complain about we're doing something wrong, or we did a really big event at the turn of the century, and I won't say the company name, but they had a big production company and they're well known, and they are going a different name now. But everybody was running around and doing crazy stuff. I did what I was supposed to do, and I couldn't even get ice from this company. They said, we're going to deliver ice at this time, and if it doesn't come, you probably won't get it. I was like, what does that mean? I was covered. Because it was in Forest Park, I just sent people back to our kitchen and got ice. I didn't work. We had 2 VIP tents with 200 people in each one. And they said, you may get ice, you may not. And when they were setting up, this is all under the production company, when they were setting up, nobody checked to see if the tanks would work on the heaters. And I said, did anybody test those yet? I asked them. I went to the trailer, asked them. No, they fluffed me off. So I went and sat down and waited for everything to start, and everything started. They tried to turn on the heat and no heat. And this was unusually warm. I think it was 60 or 70 degrees on the New Year's Eve. But when the sun went down, they got cold. And they all the suits come running out of the trailer, and I said, I told them to check that heater, but they didn't want to listen to me. But if you follow the ground rules of catering and how to do things and do things the right way, you're always going to be on the good side, no matter what color you are. But in St. Louis, some people are still 20 years behind in what they expect from a caterer, the whole thing.
You know, I think that there's just a couple things. Number one, and you guys have repeated it over and over. Number one, we do have to work twice as hard to get half the pay. And I used to always tell my staff that they'll come to us the first time, that years ago, they will come to us the first time because we're Black. I said, but they'll come back because we're good. And so we made sure that we were good all these years. And I think the only thing that we're asking for people to do is to be intentional at bringing us to the table, just opening up the door and giving us an opportunity. And if we had the opportunity, then, you know, I know that there may not be any promises, but there aren't no guarantees anyway. So what's the harm in bringing an African-American planner, designer, photographer, you know, singer to the table, or anyone from our industry? We just want an opportunity.
And that, to go off of that and what Tanisha said, that doesn't mean, you know, making a post saying I need to work with a Black planner, or I need to work with a Black photographer, like right now at this moment. That means saying you need to work with a planner or a photographer. And if I say, yes, I want to work with you, and I'm all in, bringing that person of color in, rather than 2 event planners coming to contact you and you go with the person you think you'd be more comfortable with because you're not comfortable with working with a person of color, if that makes sense. Just making it intentional that way and not, you know, all in our face. Go ahead.
I really want people to walk away from this with the idea that they need to, I say it all the time, I really want people to walk away with the idea that they need to diversify your life. Like, so many people have reached out to me and been like, hey, I just wanted to check on you. And it's the only message that I have from them by text, Facebook, or email in the 7 years that we've been friends. Like, really? Like, now magically, because Black Lives Matter, you magically want to know if I'm okay? Ask me if I'm okay in 6 months. Like, ask me, build a relationship. Get to have, like, talk to people. Like, it's really like the opening steps. Everybody who keeps saying, what do I do now? Make a new friend. Meet somebody. Get to know somebody. Talk to somebody like a human being and not a check mark.
Well, but then I'm looking at it, I'm also looking at it like this. I have some really good friends that I still haven't heard from. Not a text message. So like now I'm sitting here like, wait, did you know I was Black? You know what's going on, but you haven't reached out. What happened? So like I'm getting both. Like one, I don't hear anything. So now I'm like, hey, the Black girl's here. And then on the other side, I'm like, yeah, no. So
sure.
I'm confused. I'm in a situation.
I'm lucky. Most of my very good friends, locally and outside of St. Louis. Actually, the vast majority of my really good friends are outside of St. Louis, because I just wasn't getting any traction networking in St. Louis. Like I said on the other call I had not met the vast majority of you, so I'm excited to get to know you guys. But I just did not know a lot of people and did not feel like my overtures of friendship or relationship building were welcome. So I went outside of St. Louis to build relationship and build community for myself. So when all of this went down, all of my friends, like the people who I know that I can count on, reminded me why I know that I can count on them, locally and outside of St. Louis, across race spectrum and class spectrum for that matter. So I wish for everybody this kind of circle and community that I have been able to find. But I'm telling you, it was a hard fought battle for me to find a community.
And I think it's important to add too, if you are going to reach out as an ally, be sure to ask how that person feels and don't bring your woes. And I think we kind of touched on this before, but I've heard, I've gotten messages from people who are like, I don't know what to do, or what can I do to help? And I mean, I know there's good intention behind it, but we've been here the whole time. We've been Black our whole lives. We've been feeling this way our whole lives. So if you want to know how we really feel, like I'm somebody, I know everybody feels differently about people reaching out to them, and rightfully so. I'm somebody who, if somebody reaches out to me and says, how do I feel? I will tell you, how I feel right now in this moment, so that maybe it's an educational tool for you. But I'm not going to tell you what to read, what to watch, what to Google, because you can do that all on your own. So just be sure to not make it about you, because I know a lot of people who are allies, want to become allies, are opening their eyes right now, and that's great, but it's not about you. And that's the whole point of this. It's about us and how you guys can, understand where we're coming from more, and make and create equity and equality in this industry, but also just in our lives.
I agree. And I will even say, I don't know if when people are doing this introspective glance into what their lives are, I don't know if they know why they're checking on us, or who they're checking on. When some people have checked out to me, it's because I have a fiance, I have a bonus son, or my son, and I worry. I have brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I worry.
Every day.
My grooms, they have bachelor parties. I worry
every time.
And check on me. When you're checking on me, it's because you're seeing the effects of all of this from a gentleman who died, was killed, murdered. Those are the facts. And we're seeing this in almost every news cycle, almost every 3 months, or we're seeing it constantly. And the reason why I need you to check on me, or it's nice for you to check on me, is because I'm seeing it all the time, and still I have to persist. I still have to go on about my day and, hi, thanks for calling, be my guest event. And it's hard. It's hard. So that's why you are checking on me, not just to check mark a box, but check on me, because that can be kind of heavy.
Kind of.
I was on a call the other day with some other DJ professionals that's around the area. And mind you, it really wasn't. It was only one other person of my skin tone, put it that way. Okay. And they were saying that, well, because we were talking about as DJs, how does it look when unrest happens and you're out at an event, you know, and what do, you know, as far as with your equipment and things like that goes? How do you have that conversation with your clients? You know, are we still going to hold the event and so forth and so forth? And so they were discussing on an aspect of more of that it's now seen and things like that. And it's like, well, something should happen because it's caught on camera. I was like, wait a minute. One of our very first incidents was Rodney King caught on camera, and we've been getting caught on camera ever since then. That doesn't mean it can be a different outcome at all. The reason why it's so national because of COVID, nothing else is going on. There's no distractions of football, nor no distractions of any of athletic sports or concerts and things like that. So this is the only thing that you have to see before it happened to Tamir Rice or anybody else, and you didn't see it because you were at a sporting event and you didn't care about it. You turned from it. Now you don't have a choice but to see it. As I'm going in and out. So everybody doesn't have a chance. Now you have a chance to see it. Now it's like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, and because it's something I need to do. And that's what I feel like some of it is, in my opinion, unfortunately, for some of our, you know, counterparts, I should say, is that it's just something for them to do right now. And it's like, do you really truly mean it? So when I don't hear from somebody or how are you doing or whatever the case may be, and it's like, it's because it's not in your heart in the first place. So I got to keep it moving. I got to keep doing what I'm doing anyway, because that's what I feel like. Because I'm like, just hasn't happened. Like Joyce just said, this every 3 months, every 3 to 6 months, we seeing this. Hell, something just happened in Florida, and it ain't even, you know. So it's getting less and less. And it's not at the end of the day.
It's what Black women too.
And Black women too. Exactly. This is always happening. So I think it's just on a bigger platform because we have, as a whole nation, we have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if sports was still around, if concerts were still around, we're still worrying about who the next celebrity sleeping with, whatever. I don't even think it would be work. I don't think it'd be on a bigger platform like it is now.
When this first happened, when it first happened, and I couldn't believe every time I was watching the news, I would start crying. I just could not stop crying every time. And it was a cry for what happened, but it was really a cry for mankind's hearts. And I believe that until you change the heart of a man and his soul, the man can't change. And I think that weeping was uncontrollable every time I saw the protests, every time, you know, they talked about it and they repeated the video. It's like, it goes back to what Tanisha was saying, and Joyce and Charlie and Melanie, and well, all of you, you know, Aaron, you have to change inside. And that's something that no one can help you with. You have to make those changes. You have to intentionally decide that you want to be different. You want to change. You want to love. Love will definitely X out any racism, hate for your fellow mankind, all of that. But all of that comes to building relationships and deciding that you're going to make that effort to change.
Yes, ma'am.
Feed the humanity.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So we're going to go ahead and start into questions because we got a lot of questions here. The first question is for Joyce. I follow you on social media and have been for years. On your Insta story, you have shed much light on the inequalities Black event vendors face. And in my opinion, I think you have broken into a space that has been difficult. what advice would you give to young Black event planners looking to break into the high-end market?
Well, that is quite a compliment. You know, I definitely think I have a lot of work to do and a long way to go. I think breaking into this industry in general, you just got to know your stuff. Education has been so important to me. Continued education has been important to me. You know, I became certified because there were blind spots that, you know, I had did when I did my first wedding in 2013, and it was 400 people, and I was like a deer in the headlights because there was only supposed to be 233. And it was the groom had put the invite on his band page. So a lot of people came. And so at the last minute, we're, you know, changing BEOs and everything. So I think before you put up a website and post pretty pictures and put inspiration pictures and images, study your craft. It's okay to reach out. And I know you're vulnerable when you reach out to people, and there's the whole invoice me for my time and, you know, sit down with me. But I think know your stuff first. Approach it with the same tenacity and skill that you would go in for an advanced degree, because it's a business. It's not a hobby. For me, at least, for all these professionals on this call, it is a business. It is not something I want to just do because it's fun. It's, you know, I have systems and back end things that I have to worry about. So it's important that you approach it as, is this something I want to consider as a business? Then you proceed that way. I think that's the biggest tip I can take. But I know there's some more seasoned and established professionals, Janetta and Aaron, Melody, if you all want to chime in about breaking into, as a planner. I think the question was specific, but those are my initial thoughts.
I think you said it so perfectly. And this is what we do as a business. This is not a hobby. And you know, before my current venture, I was working with a company that it wasn't as much of a business when I got there. And I did a lot. I worked really, really hard to build it up. I brought in experience from other areas of the industry. I think that's really important too. Just to know yourself and know what you're good at and be honest about yourself about what you're not good at. And, you know, so we're always learning. We're always learning. And I think that's important, just to always keep your eyes open for what can make you better, and what can make you grow to that next level. And the same goes for this whole conversation. It's open your eyes. It's know your neighbor. Start within your 1 mile radius. Start at home. Like in Kirkwood this weekend, that's where I grew up. And we had a march on Saturday, and it was led by some of my administrators, Black teachers who I know from when I was younger. And I mean, that was so powerful to see my community show up and support me and support my family. And yeah.
I would also not to price shop if you're breaking into the industry. Everyone prices differently, and there's a reason why. Some support overhead, some don't. Some support, everyone supports their families. So I think if you're breaking into this industry, instead of going on each person's website and saying, you know what, I'm just going to charge $1. And, it hurts the industry because there's such a low barrier to entry for, a lot of the roles in this industry.
Everything nowadays.
You can put up a website very quickly and use inspiration images, and no one knows what they're really buying. So I think it's important to, really do that price analysis. Like I said, approach it as a business, please, please.
It's
and that
also,
definitely goes. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead,
Oh,
Nick.
I'm sorry. I was saying that definitely can go across the board with any industry, especially this wedding industry. And I really think people, I call them my sisters, but at the same time, I really look up to them as my mentors in this thing, and that's Rakita and Aaron. And you know, when I started working with them, love you guys. When I started working with them, they was like, "Dude, you're too good." You know, and you got to be transparent. Sometimes you got to be transparent on what you potentially may be charging. And Rakita was the main one. She was like, "Dude, you're not charging enough." Simple as that. so when I got to that price point, and then I understood as a business, because, and that's the biggest thing as far as the entertainment, as far as DJs goes, is that a lot of people will just hire DJs for just little to nothing. And I'm doing, like Joyce was saying, you have to do your research. You have to do, it's not just a hobby for me. So, you know, I'm spending money to do tutorials. I'm spending money to go to conferences and on different apps that I have and so forth, you know, following other professional DJs. That's, I'm not just talking about club DJs that we all know, like Jazzy Jeff or whatever. I'm talking about professionals. You know what I'm saying? You know, so I'm investing in equipment, even though St. Louis market is not ready for the stuff that I have. I don't care. You know, I have to invest in that, because it goes back to when I present my show to you, my experience to you, you be like, I don't care, white, black, or whatever. You be like,
I want
dude,
that. That's right.
I want that. You know what I'm saying? I want the lights. I want this. I want all white, or I want all black, or whatever the case may be, like far as the setup goes. And you have to present, like you said before, you have to take it to the next level at the end of the day. Because I know there are some DJ companies that's in St. Louis that I seen, I'm like, man, you got some busted up speakers, and you still getting hired every day, all day, just because of your color, or just because your company is white, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. So I'm finding myself always investing more into my business and spending that money and things like that, that sometimes my white counterparts don't have to spend. And because when they look at DJs, and this is even for black people, when they look at DJs, they're looking at like, oh, well, all you're doing is playing music. No. It goes way beyond that. You know, I have to invest in a website. I'm investing in an office. Like you said, Joyce, some people have overhead. So that definitely works across the board. So, and I do encourage anybody who wants to break off into the wedding industry, not just because, you know, you may decorate, you know, a birthday party here and there, or you have you bought a Canon and now you're a photographer, or you know what I'm saying? It takes a lot. It takes a lot to invest in this. You have to take music lessons. You know, just because somebody told you can sing pretty well in the choir, no, you take musical lessons. That's how I can sing in the opera. And so, and the list goes on and on. But and I agree with you. You have to be very professional about everything, even if it's down to a shirt, a uniform, whatever the case may be. Have to always take that to the next level, and so we can all keep eating and feeding off of each other at the end of the day.
I just want to interject one thing. Make sure your paperwork is in order. You don't want to owe taxes. Make sure you have your business license. Make sure you put your plan on paper, and start in your circle. I think Melody mentioned that. Start at your church, start with your friends, start with your family, and get experience. But you want to have your paperwork in order too. And then find you a mentor, someone that will guide you and help you, you know, that someone that you can bounce ideas off of. I've been in business for 32 years, and I have mentors that I call up and say, hey, I was thinking about ABCD. What do you think? Sometimes they say no, sometimes they say yes. So having a mentor does not mean that you still go off and do whatever you want to. You're submitted. You submit to them because they have your best interests at heart. Those are my 2 little cents.
Yeah. Those relationships are so important. They're so important.
You definitely want to also join an organization. So even if you do it for 1 year, whatever, you are building relationships, and a lot of the organizations are national, international, and they already provide the education that you need So start there as well. It helps you with creating a plan. It helps you with the accountability. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for accountability. And so there are organizations for each category, right? So there's an organization for everyone to join to get that information to you. So that's, you want to start there as well. And just be committed for the long haul. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy. Just be committed.
Consistency. I struggle with consistency still, to consistently post and, invest in an app that can post all my social media stuff. You know what I mean? It's consistency is key, and show up and show out and be consistent in that.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. She said, I think it would be important to address for vendors who have not historically attracted a diverse clientele, and knowing you tend to attract people or clients like what's in your portfolio, what are some ways to start combating that? If you want a more diverse clientele, but don't have images of a diverse clientele, how do you get out of that loop? I think you could start with a styled shoot. You can, start with something small. It doesn't.
Diversify your life. Diversify your life and your job will follow. Diversify your life. If your portfolio is all white, 99% of y'all got all white lives. Diversify your life. Diversify your life.
I think also look at your agency. Who are your second shooters if you're a photographer? Who are you calling in your circle for referrals if you're booked for that day? And start getting to know, relationship building before you do an all call for a styled shoot editorial, because at the end of the day, someone, or I'll say a Black customer client, will sniff that out. When it comes down to, if I'm in a sorority and it's time for the hymn to be sung at the reception, and you're like, oh, I didn't know to put that much time in the timeline for that. Oh, that was going to take 12 minutes. Who knew? It's all of those things about learning the culture and the traditions, and why is there a broom? Oh, why do they want a broom? It's all of those things that are important to know, so you're not grasping at straws, and then it doesn't make sense, and then you're not connecting with that audience, so then you won't even really book with them. So it's not productive in that manner, because then you say, well, I did a style shoot, but no one still wants to engage with me. Well, it didn't really speak to them, possibly. So I think, very much to what Rakita said, you have to really, know. Just as you would approach a Catholic wedding, a Jewish wedding, and need to know all the ins and outs, an Indian ceremony, a Chinese tea ceremony, I have to be well versed on those. Why can't you know and appreciate some of the things in my culture? Why is it such an oddity and a mystery? But I have to know Jewish and Indian and Catholic and all of these things.
Romanian,
Bosnian. It's all several different things.
Yeah, I would say, to piggyback off of Joyce and Rakita, your team. I think so many people in the industry, their team is just strictly one color. You know what I mean? I think that when people are researching for who they want to pick for their photographer or their caterer or their venue, they look at those things. So if they look at your team and everybody on your team is just white, well, they can't relate to that. And so they're going to go on. So if you would just kind of open your horizon, I'm not saying you pick somebody just because of the color of their skin, but just consider people of color to be a part of your team, because there is talent out there as well for that.
Absolutely. Amen. I like y'all. This is great.
We love you back.
I can't tell you how refreshing it is to be in a conversation that you don't have to carry by your damn self. It's great. I'm like, this is awesome.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. So we have another question. She said, I am Latina and married to a Black man. I don't see myself reflected in most wedding publications, online and print. Any suggestions to how we can make these publications more inclusive of all ethnicities and races?
Well, We are working on that as a group so that we have the online presence. And there are more and more wedding publications that are being created. Munaluchi, Black Bride 1998. And we are working on a local thing for us here in St. Louis so that those weddings that don't get voice will maybe have some space where they can get voice. I really, really hope, I know that I have had a fair amount of success getting my weddings published, but that was a matter of relationship and building relationship with those people. Like I said, you knock on doors until they open, and then you just keep building. I've been lucky that I've been able to find people who want to build those relationships with me. And so, like, everybody does not have that experience, and we got to do better about making sure that there are enough opportunities so that people can see themselves everywhere. I would love to see a Latin and Black wedding published in a lot of different places. So I'm excited by the possibilities that are coming in the next year.
And it goes just beyond the lack of, it also, whenever you choose, especially primarily when it comes to publications, choosing a photographer that's been published before. When you are photographing a wedding, their publications look for certain things, and if you haven't been published before, you don't know
what those are.
You don't know what details that are going to come back to bite you if you don't have them. They want venue shots, they want detail shots, they want tablescapes, they want flat lays. And if you have a photographer that isn't experienced, if you have an event planner that isn't super detail oriented, if you have any small missing link in your overall day, your chances of getting published are lessened, and that hurts and it sucks. But that's the importance of investing in quality professional vendors, is that everybody would love to be published. Everyone on this panel I know has been published probably at least once. I mean, DJs don't really get published and, things like that. But all of the vendors that are able to be published probably have been. And that's something to consider when you are hiring a vendor for your wedding, is, have they been published? Can they be published? Are they detail oriented? Are they organized? Are they prepared? Because you can't, even in an all Black publication, if the details aren't there, you're still not going to get published. So just do your research as far as that goes.
I mean, I would also tag on to that really quickly. It also goes back to who's running the publication. Who did the editors that cull the images and set up the spreads? What does that look like? I think representation, you need to see yourself. And I think the fear, or I won't even say I believe the fear is that if we put a Black couple on there, and heaven forbid they have dreadlocks, heaven forbid they have a sleeve, we put that on the cover, it won't sell. But Mendy or a, if you have like an Indian wedding, oh, that's beautiful, it's cultural. It's just, see us as humans, see our beauty. And that's where it's lacking. I really believe that to people, it's not beautiful enough. It's not interesting enough. And I think that's why we navigate and build our own spaces and have our own Black owned publications to share the beauty, because we appreciate that beauty. And I think right now it's not being appreciated, so it's overlooked. And until you have people on that team that can say, hey, I followed this person and I saw this wedding and it was beautiful. You have to have that representation. And it's not just Black, it's Asian and Indian, and it's every culture I feel like feels that, because 9 times out of 10, when I'm walking past the magazine rack, I don't see myself. And that's hard, because you still want my money.
Okay, but I want to add on to that. I do want to say, now is not the time, though, that every magazine has Black people on there.
Holla.
That's not what we're saying.
Tokenism, performative.
Tokenism.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we're, don't just go run out and put a Black person on. We talked about this earlier, but your Instagram, if you've never done it before. And the same way with these magazines,
Black brides will sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Now I'm looking at you like, what? Where have they been?
Yeah.
Go to some of these mixers if you see that there is a Black band that's hosting a listening session. Go to it. If you see
Post
that
about it. Mm-hmm.
a photographer, if someone's hosting a session, we're all friends on Facebook, and people are pubbing their events. Attend those. Network. Just like I do at the Knot Mixers, just like I do at our caterers mixers, I'm networking. So instead of me being the only Black person in the room, or me and Aaron being the but it's come to attend and invite and show up for other ethnicities and races, honestly.
I do want to touch on that too. When you see us out though, don't walk past us, because we see us looking at you. So, we see it. And so, so that start building the relationships. Don't just walk past. There's enough weddings out here for all of us. So just want to make sure we touch on that too.
I want to inject one thing. I taught a class in Detroit on networking. And what we did is I'm sorry. In order to remove the fear of networking, when you do approach someone, just take the time to ask them about their business, what they do, how long they've been in business, engaging in conversation. And then as they're sharing information with you, think of ways that you can help to enhance their business. So when I network with people, I'm not looking to receive, I'm looking to give. I'm always looking to see how I can help using my relationships and my connections, and see how I can build and help them grow their business or move up in the company. So if you go with the attitude that I want to give, opposed to, oh man, I want to do some business with this person, or I want to receive from this person, that's a little scary. But what you'll find out is that when you have the attitude of what can I do for you, trust and believe that person wants to figure out what can they do for you too. So that kind of removes the fear from networking and just walking up to a stranger.
Absolutely.
And after you network and you're in the referral stage, how do I say this? If a Black bride comes in your inquiry box, don't just pivot them to somebody else like, oh, Black bride, Black planner, here you go. That's not always what needs to be done. Look at, if you need to refer someone, the style, the price point, the investment level, the fit. We want people that fit, okay? And if it's not a good fit for you, and we are I think that's it's a nuanced answer, but I think that's something that we also need to consider. Just get to know your vendors, get to know people in what they offer, before you just blindly think that, oh, I'm going to pass up on this because they said we got to show up for. That's not what we're not asking for a handout. We're not asking, we're not begging for anything, because trust and believe there are publications that we can submit to. There are conferences that we can attend that are for us and by us. What we're saying is see us as talented professionals and treat us as such. Mm-hmm. I just want to be very clear about that.
And I think even too, bringing in such a basic sales tool of building rapport, and building rapport based on things that you have in common. Not just getting to know someone's business and the quality of their business, but getting to know them as an individual. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I lived in Chicago. Like those are things that no matter what you look like, there are things that we all have in common, and we do that so much with our clients, and to make a sale and to show those commonalities and build trust with our clients. We need to build trust within our wedding community, to trust each other, and that if a non-Black vendor is sending me a client, they trust that I'm going to take care of their client just as much as a white wedding planner would. Trust is everything.
Trust is everything.
So our next question, I'm going to combine. So we have one question asking about tokenism. I would like more diversity among my clients, and my first inclination is to start by including Black and brown models during style shoots. When doing model calls on Instagram, is it appropriate to ask specifically for Black and brown models? And then, before we answer that, if we want to work with you on a styled shoot, what is the best way to go about that? Vendor relationships are important, and a lot of the time, to be referred, it's usually because you know each other personally or have worked with one another. So what's the best way to go about that?
For the wedding photographer who wants to do a style shoot, I would hire a model. Like, there are models out here, Black models who are available for shoots. I would hire a model before I did a casting call, asking for before I did a casting call per se. You can literally call out and find a model and create the style shoot that you want if you want to go that direction. As far as working with people, I have always had an open door policy. If somebody called me and want to do some work, especially in this season where everybody's sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, I got time, let's go play. So I feel like if you reach in my inbox and say, let's have coffee or sit at the park and talk or get to know each other, and then in the conversation you talk about what you want to do, 9 times out of 10 I'm gonna go, I'd love to do that. Why don't we set a date? We can do this. Da, 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 da. Like this is not brain surgery, people. It's not complicated. We're just people. Reach out, start a relationship, ask the questions.
As far as styled shoots go, I've hosted several styled shoots, and I reach out to vendors that I like particularly. Now, if you're looking for a certain vendor that you don't have a connection for, that you don't know, look up a hashtag, St. Louis wedding planner, St. Louis florist, St. Louis dress, like bridal gowns. You can do the research yourself, find vendors that you like. I personally wouldn't put out a casting call for particularly a brown or a Black model. I mean, it's one thing to do it because you have a shoot geared towards it, and even then, it's kind of like a, we could squint and make it work. But to do it just because you want diversity in your portfolio is not a good look. If you want to put out a casting call, Hey, I'm looking for models. Go through, and if you're as inclusive as you like to believe you would be, you'll have Hispanics and Indians and African Americans you'll have a range of colors inquiring about that casting call. And pick a few that you like, pick 2 couples, pick a white couple, pick a Black couple. But it's a very fine line to go from wanting to be inclusive and gearing yourself that way and trying to
check the box.
Exactly. It's not a box to be checked. If you're inclusive, you are. If you aren't, you aren't. So that, I'm not going to go back into the tangent I went on earlier, but just be intentional and make sure your intentions are pure when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And I even want to add what I see when I'm looking at photographers, to get some coaching. Because when you're highlighting different skin tones, you want to capture the beauty of those skin tones. Please don't just any Black model you have on your Instagram grid making a black and white filter. Learn how to, if we want that light and airy film photography, learn how to edit for skin tones so that we're not washed out. I think those are the key things, because I see so many photographers where it's just like, know, there's evidence that there needs to be a little bit of coaching, and it's okay to get some education. I feel like if you approach it the right way, it's okay to get coaching from, you know, Pink's It Photo about, hey, I'd love to know how to edit Black skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
I love to learn how to edit white skin tones, because quite frankly, she's a leader in her field and can teach you some things. And I think there's weight to that. So we're professionals, and I think it's okay to reach out and ask for that guidance when you're approaching some unknown territory. Just like we did with COVID, we can reach out for some guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then makeup too, right?
Oh,
So-
it absolutely applies to makeup. Good God.
So we have to work on it. So if you think about, you know, you have a Black bride, and you may not have the techniques you need if you use a Caucasian makeup artist. There are Black artists out there that can blend and help the photographer, you know, so like, let's work together and mix up a few things. Like Joyce mentioned whitewashing, you know, we don't want it to be the wrong colors, because we've seen that before, and some photographers can't fix that. Cannot fix it.
And it's okay to ask for that assistance.
Yeah.
Like, don't be scared to ask for that. You know, when I have shoots coming up, I have natural hair. If I have a model with natural hair, I don't want somebody that doesn't know anything about natural hair touching that model's head, you know? And if you've never done makeup on a person of color, I don't want you to do it for the shoot. You know, you can practice and I can send you in the right direction. You know, I can hook you up with Blush on Boulevard or whoever, but
or any of them.
Exactly. We can move you in the right direction, but don't be scared to ask for that assistance. For sure.
I think it's to piggyback on what all of you guys just said, I think it's important to realize that, I mean, I can say for me personally, I'd rather somebody show up who wants to, you know, who wants to learn how to diversify, who wants to become an ally, who wants to do whatever. I'd rather you show up and say, I'm learning, I don't know, you know, what to do next, or I have questions about this or whatever. To piggyback on what all you guys just said, I think it's important just like instantly, like you said, I'm posting Black people on your page instantly, you know, just posting Black Lives Matter just to like join the bandwagon. So just be very, like you all have said, be very intentional about, and be very open with the fact that like you're learning and you want to learn. And if there are things that, you know, you can ask people about, then don't be afraid to ask, like you all just said. But I'd rather somebody show up and say, I'm still learning, versus, oh no, I'm inclusive now, because people can read through that. And I think that's kind of the bottom line, is just make sure that your intentions are always to continue to educate yourself.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's not okay to be ignorant, right?
And two,
Baby, that's a t-shirt. Where we going? Write that down.
Oh.
That's a t-shirt, hot damn it.
Can we all split the profit?
I mean, yo, that's the tagline in this bad boy. Trademark that one right there.
By the time we get off of here, everybody would have already created it.
You know what I'm
saying? The domain.
We can only
split the domain
if we all invest. We can only split the profit if we invest.
There you go.
I'm investing. Let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm with it. Woo.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. I think this applies to all of us. Wondering if you could touch on what you'd ask of clients to do support. I think she meant to support Black vendors and address the inequality in the industry here in St. Louis. So what do we expect of our clients?
My clients have always been fabulous about referring me. Okay, let me take that back. Some of my clients be like, you're my personal secret, I'm not telling nobody. But the rest of them are fabulous and will like refer me to the moon and back. And and like literally or tell their friends, you know, you really, 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 really have to do this. Like, I know you just trust me and go and have the meeting. And I cannot ask for more. And but then again, my clients are the people who are searching out Black businesses or excited to work with Black businesses, you know, and want to find the best that they can find in their community if they can, Black or white for that matter. I have a very diverse clientele, and they're always rooting for me. So if you are not rooting for your vendors, root for your vendors.
And I think having a vendor list is especially important because it's hard for us to expect anything out of our clients. Particularly, I mean, obviously, if they're hiring a vendor of color, we obviously know they're allies or, you know, XYZ. But having a vendor list and making sure your vendor list is diverse, make sure you're highlighting all areas. You don't have to just have one photographer you can refer. You can refer a white, a Black, any photographer based on their talent. But make sure your vendor list isn't whitewashed. Make sure it's diverse. Make sure you're giving your client the tools they need, because a lot of them, they go on Wedding Wire or they go on, you know, The Knot, and they're just looking at certain things. But I'm not on The Knot. Not everyone's on The Knot. Not everyone's on Wedding Wire. There's a wealth of information out there that a lot of wedding clients, they just are checking a list. Okay, florist hired, photographer hired. Give them tools, give them information. It is, again, goes back to their responsibility to do the research, but we have the connections. We know the people. We know the best of the best. We know who didn't do so hot at the last wedding. So make sure you're giving your clients all the tools they need to succeed and to include everyone that's talented in XYZ.
And go ahead, Joyce. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think our clients usually, especially in the wedding industry, usually they're only getting married once. There's a lot that they don't know. So I don't think that, yes, they need to be held accountable, but it's also the vendors. I want to call out the venues that only have 8 caterers on their preferred vendor list, and they do not have any diversity, or are unfamiliar with different practices in cooking techniques and styles. You know, I want to call that out. You know, be mindful of what you're putting out there. It starts from the head, you know, of the catering team. Hey, maybe it's time to do our yearly assessment of these caterers on our vendor team. And I don't want to pick on the caterers that are on that list, but some of those relationships are historic, and that excludes a lot of Black vendors, Indian vendors. It is very exclusionary. And I want us to really call that out and hold it accountable of who you want to work with. There are good vendors that have their paperwork in order and certificates of insurance and food prep licensing and safety that can produce an event for 200, 400, 500 people.
Yeah.
Just because you've seen enough to disappoint doesn't mean you write them off.
Amen.
And I wanted to add, just, we're not asking you immediately put us on your list because we're Black. We're asking you to put us on your list because we have the talent, we put in the work, and we deserve to be there. I just wanted to reiterate that, because it might sound like, you know, I do want you to put me on your list. I do. For real. Go ahead and do that. But but I feel like I deserve to be there. I put in the work. I'm still working, but I feel like I deserve to be there, and therefore,
yeah, I mean,
that's on you.
A reevaluation, and if you reevaluate and you find that it's still not a good fit, if you see all this list of, you know, the diversity out there, and then that's okay. It's not a fit for your business, but just make the effort.
That's all I'm saying. You ain't gotta like me, but it's like 8, 9, 10 fabulous Black photographers in St. Louis. Like, I am not a unicorn. I mean, I am a unicorn, but I'm not a unicorn in that kind of.
We're unicorns of the wedding industry.
We are a group of unicorns. It's a herd of unicorns.
Just because your hair changes different colors don't make you a unicorn.
I'm a see, what's funny is, damn it, Nick, I almost wore my unicorn horn just so you wouldn't be able to say that when I said I was.
I also want to say to all of the African-American vendors out there, like Joyce said, make sure your paperwork is in order. I've done Super Bowl work, and what they do is they raise the bar so high that it actually pushes out a lot of small businesses. So make sure you have your insurances and everything that they are asking for. You have to, and you have to pay to play. You really do. So just make sure you don't give anybody an opportunity to say no to you.
It's funny you say that, Janetta, because I did a venue. It was actually in Belleville. This certain venue I probably did at least 3 or 4 times. And I mean, weddings, different organizations. And there's one particular organization I was going to do it for. Out of nowhere, they never asked me this before. They was like, we need to see your insurance before you can set up. I was like, so you're going to wait till I get here. Mind you, this is a Saturday evening. I'm sorry. It's not like an insurance card I just got in my glove compartment. What are you saying to me? Like, this is something that could have been said. You know, the organization had insurance and they had to fight. They was like, look, you already got our insurance. This is our DJ. If something happens, so be it. But mind you, I'm seeing other vendors walk in. I mean, they didn't ask the decorator for their insurance. They didn't ask the people who were selling, you know, clothes or jewelry for their insurance. I was like, well, somebody trips over one of your speakers. I was like, well, they're setting up candles. What if a candle get on fire? Who you gonna blame for that? What if somebody drops an earring or a bracelet from what they're selling and they trip? Who is going to be responsible for that? So, man, and then, but once again, that was something that nobody seen coming at all.
Oh,
at the end of the day.
I used to keep my insurance form. Like I had my insurance guy send me a form of like my liability and stuff. And I kept it in my bag because when I started doing upper end weddings, every time I would walk in, the venue would ask me for it or like, and I'd be like, really? You didn't act. I've been on an email thread with you with the planner and so forth for weeks and you never said nothing. But when I walk in and you shake my hand, now you need my insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they actually, they want to be on it as a writer. So you just have to make sure that you keep your paperwork in order. When we walk in convention centers across the country or venues across the country, even a hotel that I've been decorating for 30 years decided about 2 years ago that we had to have our certificate of insurance and that they had to be added to it. Yeah. So sometimes there are roadblocks, but it doesn't have to be. If you're ready, like Monique said, if you stay ready, you never have to get ready.
Be ready. That's right. You're right, ma'am. You are so right, Miss Janetta.
I do want to close off with one more question and then we'll go into resources really quick. So the last question is, where do we go from here? What can we do as white individuals to help bring more awareness to this, stand up against it, as well as stop it? Is this just part of allyship? St. Louis can do better.
Diversify your life. Rakita has said this so many times, diversify your life. Every single one of us has been the only person of color in a room before.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been the only white person in the room before? You know, and not saying to go out and like look for that situation, but maybe you should, you know, just maybe that might hurt. Put things into perspective and put yourself into our shoes a little bit, but diversify your life.
Open up your heart. Make sure that we're included in proposals, RFPs, you know, your events when you're planning it, plan it intentional. You know, and I understand the panel is saying, you know, don't hire us because we're just Black. But, you know, that maybe that is a start. Maybe you, when you're planning your event, you sit down and say, okay, well, let's look at, you know, some other vendors that are non-white. You know, we've been working with ABC company for 20 years. Well, let's see if we can bring in another company and let them submit a proposal or get a piece of the business just so you can see how they operate, what kind of quality they're going to bring and added value to your event and your business.
Amen. You're right, Miss Janetta.
Oh, exactly.
I like you, Miss Janetta.
Voice.
I love you, Rakita.
Because and that makes so much sense because I'm going to put them out there because it's actually a good story for them. The Maristar Casino inside of is Rise. And I didn't realize until I joined the American DJ Association, which is a national organization, but they have one in the St. Louis market. Thank you, Aaron, once again for that referral. But anyway, they only have 2 DJs that they're able to actually refer people to, and both of them happen to be white at this time. And I had to just go in there and do an event for another organization around Christmas, and it was like, we like this dude. They instantly put me on the vendors list, and it was like, ironically, we was looking for a black DJ. So they was looking for a professional black DJ, and they put me on the list without me paying a dime. You know, if everybody knows, especially around St. Louis, to get on the vendors list, they want you to pay whatever for a whole year, and you may not get one referral from it. You know,
Awesome.
So that's kind of the same thing with other vendors. Is like, look, try them out. See, let them, you know, take some dope pictures. Let them rock out at a party. You know, let them show up and show out, and then they be like, you know what, this is somebody I can see myself working with long term, and not just because they're black, not just because they're white or whatever the case may be, just because of their dopeness and the greatness that they're going to bring to your event.
Yeah, let a black photographer take your headshot or your team's headshots. That's a way to get to someone. You know what I mean? It can be organic and just like, you know what, I had a great time on that headshot session. Yeah, let's add it doesn't have to be overnight. But I think those are some actionable ways to think about how I can work with not just a style shoot, but just collaborate.
Building relationship.
Well, even when people are having parties, if it's a organizational party or if it's a publication launch party, I'm just holiday parties, you know, try to see who you can add in there. Do you need a photographer? Do you need a designer that they could showcase then too? You know, that would be good. If we ever have award shows again, you know, include more minorities in the groupings. And one thing I want to say is I do not want a best black vendor award. Nope. You know, in that, like, so if it's, you know, and you have one black vendor and it was the best black vendor, don't do that.
Don't do it.
Don't do that.
But add a black judge. You could add a black judge, a black panelist.
Somebody, you diversify your life so there's somebody black in your circle who helps you make the list.
Something. Yes. Or add someone to your
team.
To your team. That would be good too. But don't start flaunting that person. So just make sure we're all on the same page on that. Add them to the team so then you can get more insight, and then, you know, it's a growth thing. You have to start somewhere. So that would be an opportunity as well.
Go ahead, Melody.
One thing that's come up in the last couple days is denying that this is a problem. Like, this is not just coming up just because of COVID and just because people are listening or just because it's a political agenda or any of that crap.
We've been talking about this for years.
This is for years. And the emotions that are on this panel, the hurt that I feel, the hurt that my family feels, this has unearthed things that I've been dealing with since I was a child. So it's like, accept that, because that's what it is. That's what it is.
I want to say too, we did the Rams kickoff rally when it first came to town, and we were down at Keener Plaza, and we were standing around, and it just so happened that Mayor Bosley had become mayor, and I have to take my hat off to him because he really did change some things here in St. Louis, and he diversified some things. And so the team, the sales team from the convention center, they were there at that rally, and they wanted to know, who is this Black company that's releasing 2,000 balloons and built a football that was on CNN on national television? Who is that company? So at that time, they were trying to diversify the vendors at the convention center, and we were approached. and we were asked to come to the table. And like Nick said, we weren't asked to join membership and all of that because they were looking for an African-American business to diversify their vendor list. And we became one of the top vendors at the convention center, to the point where they would call us and we could do things that no other vendor could do. To this day, I still have relationships with them. I say, that's my house, coach. Same thing happened at the casino, at Hollywood Casino. They actually pulled in a African-American designer, and we worked for them for years. My point in sharing this is, if you want to help African-American vendors change the economics of our businesses, when they opened up their doors at the convention center and at Hollywood Casino, it opened up finances. It helped boost our sales, our business, where we were having some off months, some on months. It actually helped us economically.
Yep.
We are small businesses, Black businesses, but we are still in business to make money. And that's how you could support us, by sharing the wealth.
And also, one thing is a huge perspective thing, and it goes back to what was said earlier about people pretending this problem doesn't exist. Pretend for just a second that you were a Black vendor. Pretend for just 1 second that this was your problem. Don't make it about you, but just close your eyes and pretend for a day that this was something that you had to live with, that you had to wear this color on your body for a full day. Just imagine what it's like. Imagine how your clients might change, or how they might react, or what could happen. Hear us out. We're not making this up for fun. This is not something we're just saying because we're bored. Like, this is a real thing, and it's becoming more prominent, and it's about time that it gets addressed. And I'm so thankful for this panel that we're all able to share and pursue this and talk about it. But just take on this problem as if it were your own. Don't make it about you, but pretend that it was your own problem. Pretend this was something, and that will honestly change the way you view this. And also standing up and taking this on, even when it's not convenient, even when it is not easy, even when it's not comfortable. This isn't comfortable for us either.
At
Taking
all.
it on, it's not comfortable. And if you notice venues or vendors, there's been lists put out in the past few weeks. I'm not calling anyone out because I don't know, I've never experienced it, but of venues or vendors that have made racist remarks or said racist things. Don't recommend them. Even if you had a good experience with them, believe that somebody did it. Don't refer them. If stand up against that. Say what needs to be said, even if you might lose a follower, even if your brand, like, there might be someone that's watching that's going to disagree, even if it might spark distaste. Say it anyway. Stand up for us. Be with us. Think from our perspective, and that will honestly do wonders in a shift that needs to be made. Obviously, you can support our businesses by booking with us or, referring us, but until the mentality is changed, we're still going to be screaming this until our throats are sore that this is a problem. And if we don't address the mentality, and this has been said already, but I'm reiterating, if the mentality isn't changed, we're not going to be able to get wealth shared with us, because there's still going to be a stigma. So
I mean, I can't
put yourself in our shoes.
I can't say it enough about hiring practices. A lot of us are small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, but a lot of our wedding vendors are ahead of businesses. And it's not just having, looking at your org chart and seeing where people of color are. It's thinking about,
where they can advance.
Merit and advancing them on that. I've been stifled. When I got my start, I was working at a hotel property, and I said, I want to work in events. And how do I get involved in events? And I went to a wedding show and they had a booth, and I was like, they were like, oh, well, if you want to work in events, you can be a server or you can start at our front desk. 2 weeks later, I had an interview to either be a server to be a server. I was like, okay. She said, you got to start from the ground up. That's what I'll do. During my interview, they said, oh, wow, your smile, you sound so well. We need you at the front desk. I was stuck there. I was stuck because they were just like, oh, we got to hold on to her because she knows how to, she's the face, and it was stifling in my career. And it wasn't until, I started seeing people on the sales team revolving, and hey, they didn't have to start at the front desk or as a server. They just knew someone, or they were fresh out of college, and it was the same thing. And it wasn't until the sales director at the time said, Joyce, and I'll never forget her. But she was like, Joyce, I see what you're trying to do. She trained me on Delphi, the trainings that I needed to know. She basically trained me to be a sales manager and let me shadow 6 weddings with her because she knew that's what I wanted. And then I just kind of was like, you know what, I'm over it. I'm going to start my own thing. And so I left. But it's about those hiring practices and what you will allow within your business. Not giving someone just a hand up or hand out because they're Black, but just realizing the barriers that can be.
I would argue that a hand up is what you give to other people. Give it. Like,
yes, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, pardon my language, but fuck that. Like, people teach, like, literally that's how businesses in America are made. You teach somebody and they get a mentor and they learn how to do stuff. Like, I would have killed to have a mentor or somebody who I could talk to in my early years. I feel like it took me 20 years to make progress that it has taken other people 4 years to make. Like, because I had to try and fail and fall and fail and do this and figure out that was wrong and fall on my face and get back up and keep going. And it shouldn't have had to be that hard. Like, make it less hard for somebody, for God's sake. Like, that, like, you want to do something, do that. Like, St. Louis doesn't have a Black florist. Like, who's the Black florist? I don't know. If y'all know one.
I saw one. One followed me on Instagram. Let me send it to you.
Send them to me because I've been trying to find florists for 5 freaking years.
Netta's right there.
Like, I just found her this week and didn't know she did flowers. I thought it was just decor.
Somebody just said Urban Buds too.
Yeah, Urban Buds, but they don't. It's my understanding was that they didn't do
weddings.
They do weddings, but not big ones. They only do smaller weddings.
Oh,
like I've sent people there, and they've been told that it was too much for them. They didn't want to do that.
Everything, all inclusive.
So yeah, so like that's a great resource to have. But like, there are florists out here who are like, what can I do? Train somebody. I mean, I'm training somebody. I'm always training somebody. Somebody want to know something? You can call me at any given time. Everybody know Raquel will tell you all the stuff.
Well, one thing we want to make sure we say is don't let this movement and what's going on right now end. So we don't want it to. So don't
in
just
the next news cycle. Exactly.
Stop in a couple of weeks and saying, okay,
right.
We're gonna always be Black,
right?
Like, always. So, one of the things someone said, what should we do? Those bracelets they used to say, what would Jesus do? But when you think about things, say, what would a person of color think if I heard this? If they heard this, like if it's a joke or something like that. I don't think that was a good comment. So calling those things out, like everyone said, I was like, what would Jesus do? What would a person of color? How would they feel about that? So those are things that you can think about as well.
That's good. Yeah, I was just going to say, use your voices. Like, if you want to be a true ally, use your voices. Your voices are vital, and they're going to be the catalyst, honestly, for change. Because the truth of the matter is, we live in a white supremacist society, and so if white people are speaking out and saying, I don't want to be a part of that, and what can I do to change it, and using their voice to speak out against it, you're going to create change. So yeah, don't let this pass. One of my friends posted this week, and I consider her an ally, and I love what she said. She said, do something in allyship this week that you don't tell anybody about. So it's not just like you're just doing this because this is a trend. Like, pick up a book and read it, and like, don't even tell anybody you read that book. Pick up a book, like pick up White Fragility, pick up How to Be Anti-Racist, pick up a book and, tell, and don't post it on your social media. Just do that for the knowledge that you need. So just use your voices. Your voices are vital, and do things that you don't share, because that's what truly, to me, is authentic. That's the inner work that needs to be done.
And someone just asked me a question via text message, just basically saying, do we need a list about who the vendors are? And so I do want to say we are creating that, but we don't want to rush it. We're going to do excellence. It's something that's been on a lot of our hearts for a long time. So now here we go. We want to do it. We will do it, and we'll do it well. Everything we do in excellence anyway. So if we won't do it at 50%, we'll have to do it at 2000%. And so we know that. And so we're going to put in the effort to make sure that we don't miss anybody, because one thing about having an inclusive list is that we include everyone. So we're going to take the time to make sure that we have St. Louis represented well.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I want to thank all of y'all for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I really love talking to all of y'all, so I want to thank you. And I can't wait for our bonds to expand from here, so I can really get to know everybody, because y'all are amazing.
I know, this is like a kick-ass wedding team right here.
Right. When I get married, I know where to go.
Like, where's the makeup? All we need is the makeup. We're good to go.
And Charlie, thank you for spearheading this.
Yes, thank you, Charlie.
Charlie, you're sharing your screen. Oh, okay.
Yes, Charlie. I don't know what's happening. Something's happening.
So I'm gonna share
everybody's contact information, please.
Yeah. We'll make sure we get that out, sent out in an email to you guys.
Awesome.
So for the resources that everyone was asking about, this is also in the Facebook event group, so you can just click on the link from there. You'll see all of the login information, which will disappear shortly, and we'll have the conversation replay, so you can replay this during your free time. We have a Meet Our Panelists page, so you can follow all of us on Instagram. Just click on our picture and it'll reroute you straight to our Instagram pages, so you can continue to support us. And then we have some resources towards the end. You can sign up for the STL Black Wedding Professionals Directory. It's not ready yet, but you can sign up for it to receive it when it's ready. So you can click on that as well. And it just has books to read, movies to watch, and that kind of information. So if you're looking for some kind of resource, there you have it. Other than that, you can Google whatever else your heart desires.
You're amazing, Charlie. I tell you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. Well, it was great speaking to everyone.
Yes. Most certainly.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.